Namaskaram. Namaskaram to everyone. Well, the last week has been in many ways whatever expectations and plans people were having, once again it's been smashed because the world has crossed 10 million mark of tested positives. Total death toll has crossed 500,000. 2.6 million cases in the United States alone, with 130,000 deaths or more. India has crossed 500,000 cases, over 16,000 deaths in the last 24 hours, 20,000 positives. In the 5 major cities in India, it is surging up with the relaxation. Once again, states are going back into severe lockdown mode because the relaxation has worked against the whole process. Well, as I think earlier also I have said, the administrations have done what they could do. The doctors, the medical staff, the police and other administrative staff trying to enforce this, I think in many ways they're reaching towards exhaustion and frustration because ordinary citizens, though most of them have behaved responsibly, a certain percentage of them everywhere in the world are they're God's children, what to do? They are going about their business in their own way. In many ways, the police and other staff involved in the management of people, medical staff is beginning to really tire because everybody was good for maybe 3 weeks or 6 weeks, now it's on for nearly 3 months. And once again it's surging up. You can see and feel the effects of this frustration and exhaustion all over. It's very important. It's very important as citizens of this nation and the world that we don't push the medical staff especially to a point of collapse. Many of them have shed their lives. If you push the medical fraternity and the system to a point of collapse, after that, virus will have a free-for-all. Right now, there is a 58 or nearly 59% of those who go positive in India are recovering, which is the highest in the world. But that number we will lose, that is our only hope. Right now people are recovering because of medical attention. If the medical systems and people who man it collapse under this pressure, then this recovery numbers will go down and that's not good. At one point, Coimbatore city was declared as COVID-free, but once again, it's an emergency condition, that lockdowns are happening, enforcement is happening forcefully. Sometimes force is unfortunately getting out of control. So, WHO and other agencies are talking about a mental illness pandemic, as if the virus pandemic was not good enough. Now people are causing mental illness pandemic, it's growing. People are getting mentally frustrated, sick and fearful, loss of livelihoods, loss of businesses. If things close for 5 to 6 months or more, then a whole lot of people know what happens to them. All this is causing an enormous amount of turmoil, as if that was not enough. In India, we have a little bit of a war-like situation going on. So, every citizen, whichever country you are, wherever you are lucky you are not administering your nation at a time like this. So whoever is administering it, whatever differences you have, whatever problems you have with them, till this virus situation passes, everybody should stand up and do our best, because this is not an enviable job to be managing any country for that matter, particularly a nation like India, which is as complex and diverse as it is. I think largely it is in the hands of the citizens now, how responsibly we behave. Well, I've been in continuous webinars, almost 1 or 2 per day, and this question is coming back again and again. That's what I'm telling them, see, I'm using all the people who are here at the yoga center and saying, see, suppose I give an instruction to everybody here, 14 days, just stay in your room, close your eyes and sit, we'll provide you food. They will all sit. If we could do to the whole world such an instruction and they would follow, the entire pandemic would be over in fortnight. But unfortunately, that's not possible. People can't sit in one place. So essentially, it's human compulsiveness which is taking the virus places. You tell them don't go here, they will go there. Tell them don't do this, they will do that. And many people are saying that whole virus is fake information. Don't laugh, it's a big movement by itself. It is all fake, made up by somebody, whatever, for whatever reasons. I wish it was fake. They're also on the social media attacking me. He is supporting this fake virus. He's creating fear among people. Well, every society has a right to produce a certain number of nutcases. But all these nuts are super empowered because of social media. Earlier they would be… people would dismiss them, but now they're all over you because they become super active in times like this. So this is where we are, and there are many challenges for everybody on the planet. For the administrations, for the big businesses, for the small businesses, for the employees, for the labor, for institutions, for everybody, there is a massive challenge. Challenges are times when we should rise. But unfortunately, challenging times are the times when people sink, a whole lot of them. This is not new in the world. There have been terrible wars, there have been natural calamities, there have been pandemics also. But when these things happened, a few people rose to their heights, to the best possible way a human being can be. A few people slithered down to the lowest possible level they could be. This is always the case. But it's my wish that in this generation, when our ability to communicate with the world is like never before, it'll be great if majority of the population rises to the occasion and does their best. What is the worst that can happen to us? Worst case scenario, I'm telling you. This will not happen, other things will happen before that. The worst case scenario is, we may end up living how we were living here about 25 years ago. When I say 25 years ago, for example, if you take the yoga center as an example, how were we living here 25 years ago? Let me take it 2 years further back, 27 years ago. In the same month of June, we moved in here and that was one of the heaviest monsoons we have seen. At this time of the year, see how calm it is now. Winds were blowing like 60, 70 kilometers per hour here on the ground. In the mountain, it was blowing at 110, 120 kilometers per hour. As I've told you earlier, I think, about 12 people were blown off the mountain. They went to the peak and they were just blown off by the wind and they died. So, all we had was just one hut which we called Kaivalya Kutir, real kutir it was, and about 12 bathrooms only for the ladies to use. Men were going into the forest. Well, still we very blissfully did our sadhana and everything. One night, I had a small room outside of this hut, about 68 participants and maybe about 8 to 10 volunteers, all sleeping in this one single hut. I have a room and the wind is howling in the night around 1:30 a.m. I just woke up and I saw wind was howling, I looked out of the window, all the trees were looking this way. Then I looked out at the hut, I could not see, I took my torch and flashed it. Then I saw the entire Kaivalya Kutir was at this angle. Then I got up and ran. I ran into the hut where all these people, over 72 or 74 people were sleeping, or more than that, about 75, 76 people were sleeping. And all of them are sleeping peacefully. Outside the wind is howling and blowing at a great speed. And then I try to shout at them, nobody hears. Then I turn on the lights, because the sadhana was like that during the day. They could sleep through a cyclone. So then I have to shake everybody and wake them up and scream at them and come outside, let's fix this thing because this may just collapse on the people. So there were guy wires which were like uprooted because of the wind force. So in the night around 2 a.m., we worked for about 3 hours to straighten up the hut, using the only jeep we had at that time to pull the hut back into place, because it was going at that speed, the wind, none of us could actually… if all of us got together, we could still not pull it. So we used a jeep in that rain, slipping all over the place, and all this was happening. One tree collapsed. It's okay, I have audience coming on the rooftop. Look at the interest in the darshan. For those of you who are not here, the monkeys are on the roof. So, a tree fell where we were working, and fortunately nobody was badly injured, only one person was hit, that too not very badly. It was okay, in a couple of days he recovered. Then we knew next day we couldn't stay there in that hut because it was precariously balanced. So we had to do some structural changes, but we didn't want to stop the sadhana. So we went up the mountain, where there are a few small caves which could barely accommodate about 8 to 10 people. It was pouring rain day and night. 3 days we stayed there. Every day morning 5:30, Guru Puja, sadhana, entire day class. Well, you couldn't speak much because it was howling, the winds and raining. But the sadhana was kept up, no one flat place, everybody sitting in all kinds of places. Only thing we had to eat was, we were just frying green gram and eating for these 3 days. But everything went on. So that's how it was 27 years ago. So, suppose we have to live like that again on green gram, fried green gram. Are you on, I'm asking? Yes. Everything should go on, not sit and cry green gram, green gram. So I'm saying, everybody, wherever you are, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, nothing was wrong with your life. Well, since then everybody in the world has much more than what they had at that time, everybody. Almost without exception, maybe a few unfortunate societies have gone back because of war and tragedies that have happened. Otherwise, generally almost everybody is having much more than they had 20 years ago. But 20 years ago we were all fine. And suppose it goes to that point, this is the worst case scenario. Suppose that happens, why can't we still live joyfully? It's almost like our life was wound back 20 years, now we have a new opportunity to once again create this 20 years in a more sensible and ecologically sensitive and in every other way humanly sensitive ways that we can do things. Because the way we have been going in the world, fundamentally today everything is driven by the economic engine. Everybody is only talking economy because that's all that seems to matter. The way we have been driving this economic engine, if you really look at it, the engine is on, roaring, full on, providing more and more and more things to everybody. But if you look at it carefully, nobody has the steering wheel. You have a vehicle which is roaring at full speed, but nobody has the steering wheel. This has been the case of human development for a long time, particularly in the last 25 to 50 years. We don't know where we are going, but we are going, that's all we know. In many ways, if you look at it, we are driving this vehicle like there is no next generation on this planet. We are the last. So in a way, I know people will hate me for this. I am not saying there are no troubles, not just for you, for everybody there is trouble. For everybody there are serious challenges. Everybody will have to adjust their lives in so many different ways. My only concern is that nobody should starve. If people are well-nourished, rest is okay. Instead of having 20 pieces of clothing, you have 2. What's the big problem? Actually, you need only 1 to wear. All right, when things were doing well, we did many things. If it is not so, we'll roll back. This doesn't mean to say we have to become miserable or lose our mental balance and suffer the rest of our lives. No such thing. This means we have surrendered to a microorganism. That's the most horrible thing you can do to human nature. So, wherever you are, whatever you are, this is the time for you to rise and show what are you made of. With what little that may be there at the end of this pandemic. Openly now, till now there was hide and seek, now openly they are saying, it is hallucinatory to think that there will be a vaccine at the end of this year. Openly, they are saying this. It is very, dreamy to have a vaccine by the end of this year. If it comes, it may come sometime around this time next year. And first, it will be given to all the medical personnel, and then like this, whoever is more exposed to them, it'll be given, slowly it'll come. By the time it comes to the whole population on the planet, it may take anywhere between 24 to 36 months. Even if you go at full production of vaccine and try to vaccinate everybody on the planet, it'll take that much time if it happens super efficiently. So, 24 to 36 months, or even if it is 12 months, 12 months means lot of things will naturally shrink and shrivel in terms of our activity. Only thing is, we as human beings should not shrink and shrivel. It is very important, every nation, India is doing the right thing, focusing on agriculture. Every nation should do this, focus on agriculture, ensure there's substantial amount of food everywhere. Somebody may not have the money to buy it doesn't matter, we can just give them the food to eat. There must be enough food on the planet, this is the most vital thing. Because if food shortages come, then it will go into another mode. Once food shortages come, it's simply impossible to maintain law and order, it'll be impossible to maintain civic balance in any nation, it'll go out of control. So it's most important that every nation should focus on it, everybody who has a piece of land should see at least nothing else, at least there's a papaya tree or a murungai tree or something else. Everybody should see how there is enough food on the planet, particularly governments in their policy and in their focus, because now going to the Mars is not the most important thing. Yes. We need to understand, because wanting to be ahead of somebody, satellites are being shot off, It's very, very important that everybody conserve, step back a little bit, ensure people don't die of starvation on this planet in our generation. This much we must take care. Rest of it, if it rolls back, it's all right. Instead of driving a car, we'll cycle. Bonus is health. If you cycle, bonus is health and you will look slim and trim. Yes, what you always wanted, which did not happen by driving the car, can happen, or you walk to your office, or you walk wherever, or you dig your garden and plant something, things will work. I'm saying, when things do not go as we expected them to go, it does not mean a disaster has happened. There is no disaster if you ask me. Unfortunately, nearly over 500,000 people have lost their life and many people have lost their loved ones, that is a disaster. But the virus itself is not a disaster. If human beings are conscious, we can handle this. If we address this responsibly and consciously, human societies are capable of handling this. It's still, so many people are not getting the point. That's the whole problem. And nations are not getting the point, trying to take advantage of each other. If we get this point, we can easily handle it. As humanity, we can handle it. As individual people, as communities, as nations, if one against the other, well, it will become a real disaster in terms of fatalities. But as a humanity, if we come together, this is not much of a challenge. We can easily contain it. Economy will roll back a little bit, But as long as there is food on the planet, sufficient food for all the people on this planet, we shouldn't really break our heads on economy. Economy is a problem when this guy is getting rich and I'm getting poor. Now, all of us came down a little bit. It's not a big deal, I'm saying. It's not a big deal. Maybe nations will pass laws and regulations to balance it a little bit in the near future, it may happen. It's going to be difficult. But difficulty is not necessarily a disaster. You can make it into a disaster. If you become fearful, if you become frustrated, if you drive yourself into mental instability, or unfortunately many people are on the verge of suicide or some have committed suicide, if you drive in that direction, it'll become a disaster. Otherwise, from 2 meals, suppose we come down to 1 meal, can we still go on joyfully? Say, I am 1 meal and I'm fine now. Well, it'll be little hard initially. We will eat fried gram. We'll do something. But I'm saying, difficulty is not necessarily a disaster. Only if you're completely bereft of any joy and love in your heart, then it becomes a disaster. Otherwise, difficult times come. Actually, if you look at a whole lot of people's lives who worked from very simple backgrounds to, a very successful stage, any number of people that I've spoken to, they always say, when we started this enterprise, when we were working so hard, that was the best time of our life. Right now we are living so luxuriously, everything that you want we have, but it's not the same. This is a common story everywhere. That is because those who address difficulties, seeing the challenge as a challenge and take it on, for them, challenging times are the best times. I make sure it's always a challenging time out here. Yes, it's very important. Otherwise, when awake, people will sleep. We are looking at how to produce a generation of people who will be awake even when they're asleep. That's my goal. But now most people are asleep when they're awake, suddenly little difficulty comes and they're now awake and they find it shocking. Nothing, difficulties are okay. Let us not transform difficulties into disasters. Disaster can only happen because of human attitude towards the difficulty. Difficulty by itself is not a disaster. Every year, we were trekking, this year they've cancelled the Kailash trek because whatever is happening between two nations. Is it difficult? My legs, my thigh muscles and my calf muscles have cursed me to death. Why are you taking us through this treacherous terrain every year, year after year? Yes. But that difficulty, because of the difficulty I am living without ever going to a hospital, not a medical checkup. I've always been saying when I go to Kailash, normally we're touching close to 18,000 feet above mean sea level and climbing. If I fail the test, you can bury me there, that's it. I've been passing till now. This year, no test. So 1 year I'm going without a medical test. I'm saying difficulties, every human being who is enthusiastic about life is choosing difficulties by choice, isn't it so? Somebody treks a mountain, somebody wants to fly, somebody wants to go through very difficult enterprises, ventures and adventures. Because if you are full of life, you naturally choose something difficult and dangerous. If you have no life, then you will only choose comfort. Now this has become the thing, everybody talking about their comfort zone. It's a death zone. Because the most comfortable place on the planet is the grave. Nothing hurts, believe me. Otherwise, if you're pushing yourself, always something hurts. In my body, always there is an injury somewhere. I've had endless number of fractures. These days, fortunately, last 20-25 years, I've avoided fractures, but muscular injuries, this, that, because you do something. If you simply preserve yourself like a mummy, then nothing hurts, everything is fine, no difficulty. So difficulty or what you think is difficult is actually just a situation that is challenging. Don't call a situation by any negative name. Oh, big problem, big difficulty, big disaster, no such thing has happened. It's different. It's different from this… In the last 4 months, life has become very different from the way you have known it. People are going through all kinds of things. So many people that I know, their parents are dying somewhere, they cannot go. They're not even able to attend the last rites of their parents. They're not able to go support them because they're in a COVID hospital. Travel ban, you cannot travel. They're dead, you don't even see the body, you cannot conduct the last rituals. It's just done by the government, we don't know what they're doing. So I'm saying it's difficult. It's not easy, it's difficult. But I want you to know, most people who've been committed to doing something significant in their life have always chosen these kind of difficulties. Yes. There are any number of examples. You think a Mahatma Gandhi or a Martin Luther King or anybody else in the past who've done anything significant, they went back to bury their loved ones, you think so? Did not happen. Because in those days, there was no way to fly back anywhere. If you go somewhere, you got the news after 3 months. 3 months ago, your mother died, your father died, this is how you got the news. And well, you dealt with it because you know that you're doing something significant enough in your life. If you're not doing anything significant in your life, then your own emotions and your own attitudes become super significant. In that you will suffer, in that there is a whole lot of mental turmoil, in that you may become mentally sick. Right now, pandemic, the virus pandemic is bad enough. We do not definitely need a mental ailment pandemic. We definitely don't need it. Well, there'll be a whole lot of people who'll argue, how can we avoid it? It just happens. I want you to know it doesn't just happen. You take a wrong direction, you keep going in that way, one day you will hit something. Till you hit, you think you're all right. But it's very easy to know that if you go here like this towards the wall, it's just a question of time before you knock your head on it. There is a doorway, you need to go that way. So, because these directions have not been set, let me give you a simple GPS so that you don't hit walls and rocks with your head. The simple thing is just this. First and foremost thing to understand is, human experience is caused from within, never from outside. The moment I attribute my experience of life right now, I am angry, I am unhappy, I am miserable, or I am joyful, or I am blissful, the moment I ascribe it to something or somebody, well, you are going towards mental disruption. When it's going to happen, how resilient you are, how resilient are you, or how fragile are you, will determine how quickly this disaster will happen to you. But you are heading for a disaster. then how many people are vulnerable for a disaster? Unfortunately, too many. It is just that they have not yet faced situations which will push them in that direction very rapidly. Now if this pandemic lasts for long enough, disrupting our lives, our economic structures, our family structures, we may lose people that we love in our lives. When these things happen, they will be rapidly pushed to the wall. But if this one thing you understand, always, it doesn't matter, somebody is born, somebody died, this happened, that happened, you lost your limb or about to lose your life. Even if that happens, if you know human experience, no matter what, joy or misery, agony or ecstasy, pain or pleasure, is all caused from within. You have a handle on what is the experience of your life. Once you have this handle in your hands, then you determine the nature of your experience. Once you are determining the nature of your experience, you will make sure it will pleasant. It is pleasant, especially if the outside has become very unpleasant because of the challenges that life is throwing at us. It's all the more important that I keep my interiority very pleasant. This much responsibility everybody must take. We have a substantial problem in the country and in the world. You don't stand up and create your own freaky problems. Please take care of this, every citizen of this country and wherever else you are. This much you must take care. At a time like this, when humanity is being challenged, this is not the time for you becoming a volcano of problems. We'll give you another time for that. If you must freak, I'm saying.